Um, Dan, would you like to start by introducing a little about yourself?
So, hi, my name is Zhang, and I'm a graduate. Um, Along with Australia, my cohort member, we graduated last year from the program, and I am I'm a Catholic sister. I'm a Maryknoll sister, and I work in um, mainly at the grassroots, and now currently I'm working for our congregation doing renovation projects and trying to repurpose one of our center into to something else. It was being used for one thing, and now we're trying to repurpose it into the Earth Commons, where the purpose of the center would be for healing the earth, healing relationship, and to support migrants and refugees. So that's what I'm doing now, along with a number of other things. So,
Shatoya, would you like to go next, introducing a little about yourself?
Sure. I am Shatoya Williamson. I am an alumni of the TLD program as of May of 2024. Gratitude. It's almost like, where do I start? My background is in speech and developmental therapy. I work with children primarily, starting out for the last few years. I would say starting back in 2011, around 2016, I made a little switch and decided to go into divine feminine principles, which is leadership using the spiritual principles to support women mostly, and of course men as well, to move through life with their spiritual disciplines, with the understanding of who we are. And that's pretty much what I've been doing. I've been coaching and consulting melanated women for the last 8 years to move through their leadership, to move through their personal lives, and take on life as we see necessary for ourselves. Right now, I am the vice president of what's called HPOC, or Holistic Professionals of Color, of the Fayetteville, North Carolina chapter. I also just joined an organization called the International Alliance of Women to get a better understanding of what's being created for women across the globe, and finding out how I can support wherever I can support in this journey. So that's just a little bit about me. I'm complete. I'll pass it over to Kristen.
Okay, well, while Kristen gets situated with the tech glitch and technology, I've been having technology issues as well. We'll go on with some other questions, and then when Kristen comes back, we'll loop back around to her and let her introduce herself. Okay, so to start, can each of you share a brief overview of your journey into leadership roles, including and adding in whatever motivated you to pursue leadership positions? Whoever feels called to start first.
I can go ahead and start. It's in interest of time. So in my younger years, when I first started working in the world and hadn't joined a religious congregation yet, I guess leadership, yeah, I pursued it, like just trying to make it in the world. I wanted to be team leader and all that. So I was working and became team leaders and all that. And people, what I find fascinating was that people tend to see something and invite me in more so than I pursue it. So especially more now in my current work and where I'm at, it's more of an invitation by others to do the work. So that's how I've been working in Taiwan and Kenya for a number of years. Taiwan 5 years, and in Kenya for I guess 18 years. And usually when I'm in those situations, I usually see there's a gap that needs to be bridged in some kind of context, there's some issue. So I would create programs to address those issues. So with in Taiwan, where there are women who have been trafficked, and it was at the beginning of back in the 90s, when it was not a well-known situation in the early 2000s. So because of the gap, then I opened an office and started working and networking with people, different organizations, to bring a spotlight on the issue. And that took quite a while because people couldn't really believe that it was happening. But after 5 years, 5 very intense years, I came back and continued some studies. Then I went on to Kenya to do work. And again, there in the context of Kenya, it was about community building. And I saw that there was a lot of division. And so how to bring the different ethnic communities. Meeting is being recorded. The communities to come together. So we started, myself and 2 other started a program to invite community leaders in to sit down and have conversation. So in that situation, and the program is still going on to this day, we train facilitators, we invite people into conversation groups for 18 years, and to look at social issues that face the community in different contexts. And that has been just really wonderful to be able to be a convener for meaningful conversations. And then now I'm back here in the US, and I've been called on to be in some teams for my community, my congregation, my organization, to do some organizational change efforts. So that's it.
Thank you, Shang. My journey is one that started where I was not thinking about leadership. I was really doing my best to remain on the opposite side of leadership or anything related to that, right? And that is not my calling. I don't know if you all actually tap into tarot or life readings or anything like that. But anytime that I was presented in front of a priest or anyone, it's always come up, you're supposed to be in leadership. Something about you is supposed to be in leadership. And I was like, I don't even really know what that means. And in 2016, I I joined an organization, became a part of an organization called Project Generous Heart. And the premise of this project was for women to get outside of our box, right? To just really take ownership for what it was that we were creating in our lives. And through that program, you moved through the process of starting out in this foundational piece, but slowly gaining a responsibility for taking on the interests of other women through like small circles. And so that was my big introduction to leadership and taking on supporting upward of, I don't know, 200, 400 women at one point in time in the program, becoming a mentor, and again, coaching. And so my leadership was less about strategy or any of that. It was really about creating safe spaces for women to thrive and creating courageous and brave spaces for women to show up in their fullness. And that really became a part of my life, became a part of my heart. And so I just started noticing out in my community, like, where aren't these women who are showing up as leaders really being taken care of? Where aren't these women being held? Where do they have to show up in a space where they can be held accountable and they can be held to their highest standard versus living into this stigma or the dogmas that we come in contact with. And I built a consulting firm around that, Open Arms Consulting. And so that has been my position in leadership, to provide a space for our leaders to have, so that they're being held in these positions throughout these titles, and having a place to grow. And now, because of the Transformative Leadership Department in this program, I've been able to offer transformative measures to the women that I serve, or that we serve, by teaching transformative leadership principles and qualities. So it has expanded from me not thinking of myself as a leader to me stepping into a leadership position and holding people powerfully to what they say that they want.
Love that. And I feel like it says a lot about both of you, and just the beauty of transformative leadership, of how these roles really kind of came to you and shows you as like this mutual happening and not this force happening, like you all stepping up where you saw that kind of support was needed. I think that's really lovely. So thank you both for sharing. And on the same note, I'm really curious, being in transformative leadership and being an alumni, what does transformative leadership mean to you? And how do you feel you now embody that in your work that you do?
Transformative leadership to me is starting from the inside. The work that we do, leadership, we get to see the front facing a lot. And I'll just take us to what we're currently seeing in leadership in our government, and what that means to us, right? So transformative leadership gives us the space to hold ourselves accountable to what it is that we say that we're up to. We get to get real clear about our biases, about our judgments, about our narratives that we're living into, and how we show up for the people that we say that we're here to support, and what does that mean to them? What is our impact? So transformative leadership to me gives a space for curiosity to grow, for us to emerge as leaders, because I believe with the transformative leadership lens that we are all leaders. We can indeed take on creating a path, if you will. I think that's what leadership is, creating a path for others to follow in these times, to really build a platform, if you will, for ourselves and for one another to have some sort of consistency, some sort of foundation and principle to lead ourselves into, and then guide others with that same value. How do I embody the work? I live it. I take on the challenging parts of what I consider to be in leadership. How am I showing up in my integrity? Constantly staying in touch with what do I believe? How do I feel about these things? What is my narrative? Am I pushing something on people that they are not ready for? Am I holding people accountable for what they say that they are ready for? Am I doing that for myself? Last year in May, I became goddess, and that journey has really led me to seeing some fantastic opportunities to embody the work of a transformative leader, especially when it comes to being a woman and being a woman of color in the leadership positions that we hold. And so transformative leadership gives me an opportunity to hold myself and to be present for others. And that's how I embody the action. I'm complete.
Beautiful. Thank you, Victoria. And I see we have Kristen Flatware's back now. And so I'm just curious if we can hear you, if you want to share a little about yourself and answer any bits of the first two questions we had. In case you missed the first one, can each of you share a brief overview of your journey into leadership roles? What motivated you to pursue leadership? And then the second one is, so what does transformative leadership mean to you, and how do you embody it?
Okay, so sorry about that. I guess I'll start with a quick introduction. Hi everyone. My name is Kristen, and I'm the founder of Lionheart Recruit, where it's a boutique direct hire recruitment agency specializing in a nonprofit sector. And I would say my career journey began in hospitality and restaurant management, where I honed my skills in leadership and team management. And so during this time, I pursued and completed a master's degree in transformative leadership from California Institute of Integral Studies. And after my tenure in hospitality, I transitioned into recruitment, joining Google at one point as a technical sourcer. And my time at Google, although brief due to a company-wide layoff, was a great experience that really solidified my passion for recruitment. And it was during this transition that I decided to establish Lionheart Recruit, which is just driven by my commitment to connecting amazing people with meaningful nonprofit opportunities. And so I'm passionate about what I do, and I'm proud that I get to empower nonprofits in my way and help curate spaces of diversity, and yeah, all that good stuff. And I would say more specifically, my journey into leadership, like Shatoya, was encouraged. I was encouraged to take on a manager role. I was not looking for it, was not really actively pursuing it, but you know, people were constantly, when the management position came up, they were like, you should apply. And, you know, when you're here, we feel like we have nothing to worry about, things go smoothly. And so, you know, that was a nice little ego boost, I should say. So I decided to take it on. But, you know, the initial experience really sparked my desire to be seen not as just a manager, but as someone who could inspire and drive change. And so over time, I realized that my true passion really laid in helping people and helping people reach their potential. And that too led me to start my own recruitment agency. So yeah. I feel like I'm going on a tangent. Should I answer the next question as well?
Okay.
Yeah, if you feel ready for that, whatever. Yeah.
Okay, I believe we're on a second question, which is what does about transformative leadership and what it means. And so to me, it's transformative leadership is a concept, a style. Again, like Shatoya said, it's about everyone can be a leader, right? Everyone, whether you want to or not, you have led in some capacity. And so for me, it's about empowering others to cultivate, foster, and facilitate positive change. It involves inspiring and motivating people to exceed their own expectations and hopefully achieve greatness. And I try to embody this by creating a supportive and inclusive environment at Lionheart Recruit. I try to make sure that everyone feels valued and empowered to share their ideas and take initiative, basically. Yeah, I'll leave it at that.
I love that. Yeah, I love the empowerment. I feel like that's such a big part of transformative leadership, is that empowerment for ourselves and each other. Zan, do you want to go next?
Sure. I love what's been said. Of course, since we're graduates of this program, we all know of the different concepts. But one of the things that really attracted me to transformative leadership is the belief that everyone is a leader. And I truly believe that is in your own context, wherever you find yourself, that you have that ability to step into the role and do something for the good of the whole. And that's what I love. And that each one of us have our own unique way of knowing And I agree, the knowing of ourselves is critical to any leaders, to go deep into that if you want to be an effective leader. And the being and the doing, the being for me, as it concerns leadership, is how to listen really, deepen our skill of listening. And doing is to do things in a way that's integral to what we believe and what we value. And I think at this point in time, with the world the way it is, more and more of us need to be invited into this knowing and being and doing that's holistic. And we need every single one of human being to step into this moment in time, because the world situation is teetering on chaos. Just looking at climate change, and then how that is a ripple effect across all discipline, all arena. So that I think is what transformative leadership is to me, is to recognize that each and every person has that gift, and to invite that forward. I think the invitation is very important. That's it.
Lovely. I think that's so moving, so touching. It's just so dear how I can tell through each of your responses how much you each embody this in your lives, and how much the program and the learning really meant to you, and how you all seem to be naturally transformative leaders, like in your life, and how things merged, which I love. And so with that, though, being a woman of color, there comes a lot of challenges of not having as much representation or positions or things offered to us as other people. And so with that, my next question is, what have you found to be some of the most significant challenges that you've faced as a woman of color in leadership? And how have you and how do you navigate these instances of bias or discrimination in your professional life?
Okay, go ahead. Okay. I think what's most challenging for me is to be in systems that I don't know, it's to be in a normative system when I don't fit the norm. That's the most challenging thing. And that constantly having to, when I was younger, having to justify myself, or justify the way I do things, or explain it, or at a certain point in my life, it became much more important in order to face these challenges, is to first of all, that inner work. That's why the inner work is so important. First of all, to go inside and reclaim all the things and validate all the spaces that is not a part of the system. That's not a part of the norm. It's normative to me. To reclaim all that's normative to me, and to stand strong and firm in my rootedness in who I am. And that I find is the best way for me to face biases. Now, biases for me, if it's just one-on-one with, it's okay. It's when there's systemic, it's when power is connected to the biases, that's problematic. And how do I navigate that? I really have to choose each time, is this worth it for me to get into? Or maybe I can spend my energy some other way to influence in other ways that might hopefully shift the system that I'm not, I have no illusion that the system will change, but I'm just hoping that I can push it a little bit to shift it or to expand it so that others can come into the circle. So that's how I would look at it.
Yeah, I'd have to agree. I've had obviously similar challenges as a woman of color, and saying one of the most significant challenges I've faced is overcoming those preconceived notions and biases that exist, especially in the corporate world, and how people tend to project their preconceived notions on you, their stereotypes on you, and sometimes feeling like I need to walk on eggshells and be mindful of, you know, when I want to be like assertive or direct like my, you know, counterparts, I can't do that. I could be seen as overly aggressive or, you know, too assertive or whatever. And so I think that can be challenging at times. And so as women's cover, I've also had to, you know, work hard to prove my capabilities and often, you know, face instances of being underestimated. And I think navigating these challenges, you really need to build a support system, basically, and have a network of mentors and allies, because, you know, it was nice to get that validation too, that you're not crazy, because you always feel like you're being gaslit. So you always feel like you're being gaslighted. And because the things that you experience, especially as a woman of color in leadership, are often intangible. You can't see, right? And it's invisible to the untrained eye. And so it's nice to get that validation that, no, you're not crazy. We experience these things. And yeah, maintaining resilience and confidence in my abilities really helped as well.
Gratitude, Kristen. So my challenges have been a little bit different just because I have made a concerted effort to stay out of leadership. All right. So I didn't get moved up in a company or, you know, nothing like that happened. I actually made a choice to go into this leadership conversation from the space of what's happening here, right? Like what are women experiencing that is so much different, especially women of color? What are we experiencing that's so much different than everyone else in? And so I started learning about the Willie Lynch letter and going back into our history, about thinking about how we have been affected by some of the traumatic experiences that Black people, people of color, melanated people have had to go through, and how that has been imprinted in our DNA. And so when I started thinking about it from that perspective, things kind of switched for me, right? Because now I'm not so conflicted with the conversation of the system as I am with what happened prior to me even getting here, that is now having an impact on me, how I show up, and what needs to be done about it. So the Willie Lynch letter, I don't know if you all are familiar. If not, please go look at it. It really talks about how this man, Mr. Willie Lynch, came into Virginia 1800 and some odd years ago. And he talked to the slave owners and told them that this is how you break down the woman of color. This is what you do. You take these things from her. You put her here. You have her watch what's going on with the men and children in her family. So these things have played a critical role and had a very big impact on how women of color are perceived, and what we've taken in as a result of this type of treatment. And so my mindset and the challenges that we face is more like, how do we dismantle this? How do we take on becoming exactly what we know we are, because these systems have been put in place to block us from having this said experience, that we are supposed to feel inferior, that we're supposed to feel like we don't belong, that we're supposed to not be here based on these intentional acts of demeaning women of color. And so from that standpoint, the challenges look a little bit different because I'm not interested in your conversation or in the conversation about I don't belong here. I'm actually here because you called me forward to be in this space to make a difference and to cause an impact. And so taking on that uh, mindset or that frame of mind has helped me to navigate instances where biases may show up, that the discrimination may show up. But because I have done such a great job at not being in those spaces where that behavior may show up, I don't have a real significant, explanation for it, if you will, right? I'm not experienced that. I've worked primarily with women, but I can say that it has held me back in an instance, right, in a stance, because I won't allow myself to get into leadership positions where those things may come up, which is not healthy, which is me in a way avoiding or escaping that very thing, but working on it from an internal position or supporting others and working on it from an internal position that we're able to navigate through it without feeling bombarded with or inundated with that pressure to perform or that pressure to show up in this way that it's not ours. This is something that has been made up for us. And so it feels at times like I've stagnated my leadership potential by not going out there and subjecting myself to such ridicule at times, if you will, and also that I haven't made a concerted effort to go into these spaces to create the impact to cause something different to happen for other women of color, but definitely standing in a position to teach women of color how to show up in these spaces in her glory, in her honor, and not standing by letting anyone take that for granted or take advantage of that. I'm complete.
Thank you all for sharing. It adds a lot of unnecessary complexities just because of how we were born, what we look like. And I think another really big significant challenge I notice a lot is that, businesses or organizations like to say that they mark these boxes, check these boxes, like mark the kind of categories that they're meant to meet for diversity and inclusion. But then in reality, like when you look at all the leadership positions, it's like all white people, like nobody actually of a different culture, belonging, like identity that is there to represent what they want to create more of. It's like kind of walking the walk of the talk that they try to talk. And I feel like that's really frustrating, as well as getting like free education from women of color, people of color in workplaces, which is really a lot to navigate around. And I think that with that, how do you think that organizations can better support women of color in leadership roles through utilizing transformative leadership principles or theory? Or how have you seen that, like, in going about your degree and learning transformative leadership theory? Like, what have you learned about that you think can be implemented in organizations or in spaces that can support women of color?
Yeah, what Shatoya said really hit home with me. Oh my goodness, I can certainly relate to not wanting to be in a position of leadership and not wanting to work in corporate structures, because I feel like sometimes our presence isn't always valued, our contributions aren't always valued. It's like the spaces aren't traditionally inclusive, and we can feel that. And so honestly, that's one of the reasons why I decided to start my own thing. And I was like, you know what, screw this, I'm gonna start my own thing. And I think that's what contributes to why the growing number of entrepreneurs are women of color. Because we're like, okay, I'm over this. I'm gonna start my own thing. And I love that I now am in a place where I can advocate for creating and curating better spaces for us, and really being able to discuss with hiring managers and people in leadership and organizations of how they can better cultivate and foster spaces where, you know, people of color, people from the BIPOC community can feel valued and appreciated, and how can you attract these types of candidates, you know? It's one thing to say you want to have a diverse organization, but once you get to diversity, what does that look like? What are you doing to, you know, make, you know, a more inclusive space, a more equitable space? But in terms of like, so that leads me to say, one of the things I do recommend is creating mentorship programs. That is just so, and I can't even begin to stress how amazing that would have been had I had mentorships, especially in my first managerial experience, because, you know, you're not prepared for all the things that you are up against. And yeah, mentors and allies have been instrumental in my leadership development. They have provided guidance, support, and validation, especially during times when I felt undermined or gaslighted by others, and their encouragement and belief in my potential helped me stay focused on my goals as a leader.
So I can definitely agree with that advocacy part of what Kristen shared, because who else is standing up there saying, listen, this is important for any of our, anyone that's in leadership or any role within a company. What really comes up for me is organizations to listen to what is being shared, right? And from the women of color, people of color, just making a concerted effort in wanting to know what the people of color in that organization are experiencing, and thinking about it from terms of how can we make it better, or how can we support, or how can we create something to better hold the people within the organization. I think allies are important in that conversation, just because sometimes we don't hear it from the person that is having the experience, similar to what Kristen said earlier, because, you know, you might get gaslit, or you're just not hearing me the same. You think I'm complaining, you think that I'm being negative, or, you know, we get called angry Black woman at times. So, or whatever, you know, if you have a little bit more passion in you or whatever, you're not very, you know, so those things kind of get misconstrued. And I feel like when there's someone there that may or may not look like you or have those same cultural values as you, but can see you, can see your heart, can see the type of person that you are, the energy that you bring, and speak to, well, maybe this person does have a point, or maybe we should take this into consideration, or I feel the same way too. Right? That allowing others to share how they are being impacted by the presence of people of color in the company, and hearing that, you know, and not being in a place where we're like, well, shut it all down and cancel everybody who doesn't like it, but to really build a culture and build our communities to be more supportive and loving is what's coming up, really more loving towards what it is that we're talking about. I think we pull those aspects out of organizations so much because it's about the business. But I think if we really start to hone in on some of the more social and emotional aspects of being human into our conversations, that we'll get a lot further in our organizations and what it is that we're attempting to manifest, if you will. I'm complete.
Thank you, Kristen and Chatoy. I can resonate with the creating community, the networking, the importance of networking. And I think especially networking with not just with mentors, but with people who have similar experiences that could give that, right, there's the support that we would need to help us continue to stay in conversation, and definitely with allies. And I like it. I think culture change really often happens when there's a groundswell. So if there is enough networking on the ground level, that it would swell up, and it has a better chance of creating a cultural change rather than the top-down leadership paying attention and listening. But if we have the good fortune to have leaders like that, that's the easiest way, is that with their position and authority and power of influence, that they can shift things to be more inclusive and equitable for everybody. And I think it's really important for me that organization pay attention to the inequity. So I would just take my organization. So at the beginning of, we started 100 years ago, mostly the membership was European American. And as time goes on, it became much more international. And now it's shifting the other way towards more international members and less European Americans, I would say, in about 10 years. So we can create the same dynamic of the dominant and the minority. It's just the faces look different. If we don't pay attention to welcoming in all frames, all different ways of knowing and being and doing, so that really requires a culture shift, and I think that to stay, inner work still is needed, are there processes that will help that in an organization? But I think to stay close to the experiences and have people who have had experience of being dismissed, not seen, not heard, to have spaces where that experience can come out, no matter what it comes from. So that's it. Thanks.
Yes, I love what all three of you said, and really agree. And Toya, you said something that really stuck with me about like listening and just organizations actually listening. I see so much of that, and it really reminds me of cybernetics and the importance of feedback, and transformative leadership. It's like something that really feels like it's just so not present in a lot of organizations, of them actually taking feedback, or even just having spaces to safely share feedback, because I feel like that's often not something that women of color especially feel safe to do, depending on who's hearing the feedback. And so like having a sort of safe way for people to express feedback, and maybe a way that no one's name has to be named, or like different things like that. I don't know. That's something I really think of in regards to this. And we're getting close to the hour. And so the session will go till 1:30 for Q&A, but I have just one more question to ask you three to end off this section, and then we'll open it up to the audience. And so the last question, with this all in mind, and I love, Kristen, what you said about mentorship and allies and like network connecting. I think that's really important. And Zan, what you had said too about, reaching out, actually showing that representation in these spaces. I'm also curious, for aspiring women of color who want to take on leadership roles, what advice would you give to them?
My advice is always, if someone is called to leadership or any other thing, that they should absolutely take themselves seriously in it. Learn as much as you can about yourself. know who you are, what you stand on, and what your purpose is in being a leader. What are you intentionally bringing forth? I would say to her to remain in a space of clarity, to remain in a space of authenticity, of transparency. I know we want to go into rooms and, kind of hold back, but I think being able to take on that nervous feeling or whatever that is that comes up for us right before we say something that we may and may not should say, that we just take it on and realize that we're being called to these positions for a reason. It's time for a change. It's a transformative measure to even take yourself seriously enough to move into a role of leadership, and enjoy the journey. Enjoy the journey. Know that it is never um, it's never over. Every step that we take is a new step into learning more about what it is that we've said yes to and our commitment to that thing. So just go for it and enjoy every second of your decision. I'm complete.
Love that. Shatoya, I think leaning into nervousness, leaning into nervousness and taking up space, so important. I meet so many women who are also so nervous to speak up. I was lucky to have someone approach me about taking on a leadership experience. Not everyone is that lucky. If you are interested in going into a leadership, speak up, say something, let it be known, because a lot of times they're not going to approach you. They're not going to ask you. And so you have to, work on visibility. I would also say ask for feedback. We're so often scared of feedback, but it really helps us to grow, basically. I would say that, another thing is, my husband would be to know that you don't need to have all the answers before going into leadership or check all the boxes. You don't need to check all the boxes, and you don't need to have all the answers. Leadership is about continuous growth and learning, and to seek out mentors and build a strong network and stay true to your values, basically.
Mm-hmm. So I resonate with all that's been said also, that for me, it's critical to stay grounded in who you are, and to go back and reclaim, if that you need to take some time to do that, then do it. Go back and reclaim all those spaces inside yourself that has been diminished or belittled, and to know that what came from your family, what came from your culture, what came from where you were brought into this world, all of that were wisdom that we need to step into and reclaim and hold on to the things that work. And not everything works, but what the things that have worked for us, not to belittle it, others might, but for us to stay grounded in that, those values, those beliefs, and then step into the world knowing that you're enough. It takes joy in the small steps, that you can make, in the small ways you can influence others to expand their worldview. Take the joy in that. That's been my experience, and that's what I do. Mm-hmm.
Oh, I love that. I love all of your answers so much, and I think they're so on point. And Dan, I think too about what you said earlier in the conversation, of advice that I'd give is like know when to pick your battles, sort of. Like it's exhausting being a woman of color and having to provide education to people. And I think that, thinking about younger me, or a younger, a woman of color who are looking to get leadership roles, is just like, you don't have to engage in everything. Like, you can walk away. Like, no one's supposed to keep your chin up, walk away, like, and have your boundaries and keep those boundaries, and also have fun. Because that's like, we're often taught to be serious and we have to be resilient, but we can be soft, we can have fun, we can show emotion too. Like, just be yourself in that. And I love that. that notion as well. And so rounding off here, thank you three so much. I really enjoyed getting to be in this conversation with you, Kristen, Chatoya, and Zan, and engage in these questions in this really important dialogue. And I know it's really needed, and the three of you are really inspirational in the work that you do out there in the world. And I know that many people look up to you, and you just being of existence and stepping into your power is really creating a ripple effect, as you all spoke of in transformative leadership, showing other people what's possible and what can be done. And I admire the three of you so much. And with that said,
thank you.
I will open it up to questions and answers from the audience. And I see we already have one in the chat. So I don't know if you, Medea, I don't know if you want to ask yourself, or I'll read it because we posted it here. But they said, what does embodied transformative leadership look like and sound like for women of color? And then if anybody else wants to raise your hands or put it in the chat, we'll just kind of go in order as they come. But I don't know if anyone wants to answer that one.
It's a good question. Embodied leadership, what does that mean? I think for me, it's about knowing that there are certain things that I believe in or I agree with, like in the moment when I have, so coming from an Asian background, let me back up a little bit. One of the things that for me is my truth is I don't need to step in to make myself known that I'm here all the time. This is coming from my Confucius background, Taoist background. It's a yinist, Y-I-N, a yinist attitude that I can very much be out there to speak up for victims of trafficking and fight that, and be confronted with gang members or something who are facilitating these things, and at the same time I don't have to be, I don't need to make it myself known in that, like I have to speak out all the time. When needed, I will confront. But inside also is an attitude of understanding that I'm going to embrace the risk, this risk of doing this work, and being okay that it might threaten my life. So it's that. So I guess for me, that's embodiment, is that I know I have all these feelings of fear, all these feelings of anxiety, but at the same time, I know that I want to live. There's a part of me that says I must step out when I need to step out and do something, but not all the time. So I don't know if that answers the question of the embodiment of leadership or not. But that's how I live it.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for sharing that. I'll also add, I think embodying transformative leadership it doesn't necessarily look like leading from the front. Sometimes it's about leading from behind and helping to facilitate and co-create the changes that are needed. Sometimes it's about listening to others and figuring out how can we merge all of those ideas and co-create a system where everyone feels like they were a part of it. And that's what I really try to do in my organization. I don't want anyone to feel like I'm a dictator. I want everyone to feel like they're also a partner. I don't look at you as my employee. I don't look at me as your boss. I get so uncomfortable when they say that. I'm like, I want it to, this is a collaborative effort. And I feel like when you create spaces where everyone feels like they have a say and are a part of the curation of systems and things, I think you get such transformative experiences and ways of doing things that are beyond the traditional approach.
Hey, Medea. Yeah, so I agree with what Zhang and Kristen said. What really sticks out to me is the embodiment of transformative leadership being a choice, right? I stick to my theory that it starts on the inside, and I can't do anything about anything going on outside of me until I take care of what's on the inside, including what Kristen mentioned, the domination aspect to partnership and wanting to really weaken the domination system from the inside, where I feel like I need to, like Zhang said, kind of step in and do something or be something, or, like, I think as leaders, we kind of sometimes see ourselves get wrapped up in that title, but it's not that, right? So it's really about, for me, to make the choice to show up in a transformative way, that I'm not perfect. I'm not trying to be perfect. And I also get to take on the role of living from my highest state, right? I get to take on the role of this and take on that for myself and see others in that place, right? So I'm going to see myself as my highest self, see others as their highest self, knowing that there is an opportunity to dominate a space or organization or whatever, but really leaning into another aspect of or another aspect of the opportunity being the partnership. Like, how do we come together? How do we make this a safe space? How do we make an inclusive space for everybody, if you will? So I think that is important for women of color, because a lot of times we don't have that space to be held. And if we can create that through our intention to be in partnership more often than not, then we can move through our own judgments and biases and things like that kind of keep us feeling separate and in this silo, and really take on being inclusive and diverse in the places that we hold, if that makes sense. But thank you for that question.
Great question. Thank you. And now it looks like we've got a question from Debbie.
Hi, everyone. I've really enjoyed everyone's, talk about who they authentically are and how they do move through the world, because as we know, things are ever changing. So here's a question I love to ask anyone who wants to answer it. What was your aha moment during these spaces that you are showing up as transformative leaders?
I've had so many aha moments. I don't even know where to begin. I'll say for me, because like we all know, we have these notions about what it means to be in a position of leadership that tend to reflect a dictatorial whatever attitude of people need to listen to you, you're the boss, whatever. I think my aha moment was the importance of getting buy-in from everyone, the importance of everyone having a say. And when you can really implement and get the feedback and then implement those feedbacks into whatever it is that you're trying to do or facilitate, it really inspires people to get behind it when they feel like they've been a part of those ideas. So I think getting feedback and creating more collaborative spaces, and I think that was my aha moment of knowing, okay, you just can't walk into a room and like, this is what I want to do. really, try to implement the ideas of others in what you're doing, if that makes sense. I don't know if that makes sense, but
Thank you for that. Definitely. I was thinking when you said like being with the group and everybody listening to other people and getting their feedback. I think also this my aha moments come in the form similar to that. It's like when I don't know, when I come in with my mind ahead of time to say, I really don't know what the heck's going to happen out of this, but I'm going to really open my ears and listen as well as I can. And then something will really surprise me. And then say, oh, that's the answer. And then to be able to say, I have no idea where we're going to go, but we're going to go there together. The other thing I think also is aha moments is when I feel really embarrassed and I show like my vulnerability about something, and the responses that come back have been like, and it's like leaning into the fear we were talking about. It's like leaning into the nervousness, and being able to embrace that in the moment and say, the response, and it also create bonds and community. So I those are the best moments for me when I can learn those lessons.
These aha moment questions. Debbie gets us with these all the time. Oh, okay. So I have to say that it is a culmination of what Kristen and Zhang shared for me. The aha moment is I don't have to know. I don't have to know. I can look in the space and be like, let's find somebody else who does, because that allows the next leader to emerge. I like not knowing. I like not having to be the one that comes up with the answer. And so I like giving other people an opportunity to shine and to showcase their talents. And so me not knowing is a part of that occurring. And so when there's a time where I can't walk into a room and have the answer, or if I haven't quite gotten it quite yet, whatever the download is, knowing that I have a space to enter where collaboration is available to me, that I don't have to show up on my own, is a huge aha moment for me. Because coming into leadership, that kind of was a thought. The leader had to have the answer, right? You're supposed to open the door and let everybody through, and you're supposed to know what to do next, and and realizing that that was not the authentic truth. That is it is a perspective, it is a choice that we can do it that way, but that collaboration was available, that we could build something together, that we could find the answer together, was more rewarding than having to know everything at one time. And then I would say the second part to that aha is there's peace in leadership. It does not have to be, even through the chaos, it doesn't have to be a hard thing to be a part of, and that we can absolutely live into a sense of peace. So I'm complete with that.
I love that. I feel like, yeah, the aha moments often for me too, just feel like humbling and just stepping back from things as well. It reminds me of I do tarot also. Toya, you mentioned that, and the Hanged Man card, which is the upside down person, and it's like that, and there are lightens like around their head. It's like a halo around their head, and it's kind of like when you let go, it's like you have this aha moment when you take a step back. And sometimes we're kind of forced into those moments if we just can't have control over something, and other times it's like we have to just take that step back and see things from a different perspective. It's like a good aha moment. Something that Zan taught me a lot about in the program as my cohort mate. I talked with her a lot about seeing things from a different perspective and taking that step back. It's a great question. Are there any more questions?
Just want to say one thing. When I asked that question, and I've asked it a lot, everyone's faces light up. It's like, it's from me asking it and looking out there It's just an amazing moment where everyone, you know, because when you're doing a presentation, right, we all know that, you know, you're kind of serious, you're a little nervous, all these things. And then somebody like me asks that question, well, what is an aha moment for you? The face lights up. It's it's absolutely beautiful. So thank you for that.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Debbie.
Can't top the aha. Can't ask a question now. You can't top a question. But no, this is really great to learn. Like, I feel like I just kind of want to just like real briefly. I feel like it was really empowering. I feel like I was listening. I think when you talked about listening, I was like, I need to listen deeper. Because I feel like, yeah, since graduating those 2 years in TLD, like I think listening was the greatest thing that came out of the program. I think having all these mamas in my cohort, you know, like giving me that tough love, like child, shh, you know, like, you know, a lot of love. And I think listening, like, I don't know, it's like that part of you where it's like, oh, like I see you, like I know it's like I can be with you and I can just listen and not have to say anything, and I can just appreciate what you're passionate about, or if you're having kind of like a day, you know, you're not feeling too good, but you want to kind of just share. It's like now it's kind of like I don't have to just jump in with like a motivational speech. It's kind of like let me just be with my friend and you know what's going on and you know get it out, and then we'll go get some ice cream. But it was really great to listen to it. I just want to say congratulations. I think the title, you know, Women of Color and Leadership, I was like, ooh, gotta go to that. You know, I think creating the space for us to be and to come together, you know, there's not a lot of spaces like that. So it's nice to have you women of color out here creating the space in the intellectual community, and it was awesome. You guys killed it. You crushed it. Good job.
I would love to have heard from all of you also, you know, and just because we're all leaders, it's not every single one of us here. And so I would have loved to hear. I mean, Corey, good to see you again after so many months. Yeah. So yeah, hopefully, Estrella, you create some other spaces for us to come together.
I would love that.
Like maybe once a month or something, just
That would be
because
lovely.
there's so much going on
Yes.
out in the world that who is this affecting? Hello, people of color. We're the ones, male, female, they, whatever. You know what I mean? And the more that we can talk about it and laugh about it, right? Because I saw Kristen laughing when she said angry Black woman. You know what I mean? Because you got to laugh at it. We're not angry. You know what I mean? So it's funny. So, you know what I mean? The more we talk about it, the more I think, we can show up in those places like Shatoya does already. She says, I don't care. I'm paraphrasing. I don't care. I belong here because you sent me here to do whatever that is. So that's what I think my takeaway is. We got to just show up. Jay-Z said it at the awards. Just show up. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Love that.